And that's buttressed by findings showing that in the scales that measure trait neuroticism or negative emotionality, self-consciousness is actually a facet of the scale itself, which means that acute self-consciousness is so tightly associated with misery that they may be essentially the same thing. So now you can't really escape from that trap by consciously trying to think less about yourself, because if you start thinking less about thinking about yourself, you just end up thinking more about yourself. That's not helpful. But what you can do, this is extremely useful, is you can start thinking about how to put other people at ease and what you can do for other people, like how you can be of service. And paradoxically, because that takes the self-conscious stress off you, then your negative emotion levels will fall. So, if you find yourself ruminating about yourself and your concerns, you can actually learn how to switch your thinking to what you might do to make the lives of the people around you better. And that could be, your immediate partner, for example, or your immediate family members, or your friends, or your business partners, or people in the broader community. Service to others is one of the ways out of negative self-focused emotion. We have this strange idea in our culture that the more we encourage young people to be concerned about their mental state, let's say, the more value we're attributing to them and the more good we're going to do them on the mental health side. And that couldn't be less true. It's actually an anti-truth. To overprotect people and to have them focus on their own concerns is definitely a pathway to misery. Now, the other thing I would say, this is useful too, something you could try to do is, imagine I ask you, say, why don't you just sit down one day for an hour or maybe across a couple of days and write down all the things that you're afraid of and avoiding that are necessary for you to do to move forward, right? So these would be things that you're not doing that you need to do in order for you to move to where you want to move. And so you need to make a pretty exhaustive list of those. Then you need to break each of those down. You need a strategy, and a written strategy would be very helpful. You need a strategy of exposure. Like maybe you're behind on your tax documents, let's say, or there's some other stack of paperwork sitting on your desk that you're not attending to because you're afraid. And there may be lots of things in your life that you're not attending to because you're afraid. And so, first of all, you want to admit to what those things are, and you can ask yourself that. Then you want to write them down. Then you want to come up with a strategy for starting to deal with them. So like if it's a stack of unpaid bills that you're terrified of and that you've been avoiding for a few months or even worse, you're going to be pretty damn afraid to even take a look at the problem. But it'll almost inevitably be the case that if you take a look at the problem, a detailed look, the reality will be less terrifying than the specter that your imagination has conjured forth. And maybe the thing you can do for the first day when you decide to actually turn around and face the dragon, let's say, is all you'll do is open the file folder with all the documentation of what you're avoiding in it and just glance through it, like for 5 minutes, just to break that paralysis. Or maybe you have to spend 15 minutes gathering the dispersed documents that are in whatever the hell passes for your filing system together so they're all in one place. Some move forward. And so what you want to do is you want to think about what it is that's producing negative emotion in you, your doubts and your concerns, and then you want to develop a strategy of incremental approach. And that will also fortify you, partly because you reduce the number of things that you're afraid of by actually dealing with those things so they go away. You actually solve the problems, but also you train yourself to see that you're the sort of person that doesn't have to run from their problems no matter what they are. And that deep learning that you are that sort of person is in fact the solution to the problem that you're describing with regards to severe anxiety.